Hello and welcome to episode 72 of Nintendo Therapy, a show about the latest Nintendo news and rumors, as well as a celebration of all of the things Nintendo. My name is Kevin, and with me this week to talk about what else but the Nintendo Direct is Harrison.
I have so much to say. I have
Yeah.
I just like every day it's like I thought it would get better throughout the week. We're recording this on Thursday. Direct was on Tuesday. Um I haven't stopped thinking about certain things. So
It
I'm
was a
happy to
good
be
one.
here. I'm happy to be here. I can't like just an overall general feeling I'll start off with is just I still can't believe what happened. Like I just can't believe like it was
And yet
beyond
a lot of it was in our predictions. So it's almost like dreams do come true.
right.
Because our
So
let's face it, our predictions are actually our hopes, you know?
right. And then our predictions aren't really ours as well because people much smarter than us and people who actually are have like insiders are the ones that we're getting this information from. So we're we're just we're just reading you guys a Twitter feed pretty much on this podcast. I'm
Oh, I
joking.
think, uh, you know, I don't know if this is the time or the place for this discussion, but there were a few um YouTubers I watched after the fact. I watched their like live reaction to the direct, and I have to say, a few of them I am convinced are pretending not to have inside knowledge because they seem to be excited about stuff that hadn't been announced yet, or like, you know what I'm saying, or like would get excited just half a second before the direct revealed something or something. I was like, I feel like this person knows. I won't name any names, but I'm like, I feel like this person knows more than they're letting on.
Well, I'll tell you that I would predict 100% of the YouTubers I watch have inside information. Because if you watch them long enough, they eventually just like will tell you that. It's like, how do I know this? How do I know this? Because I talk to people. Like I have friends in this industry. I might not
Mhm.
know it, but I at least have more of an idea that it could happen. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I usually watch live reactions during it just so I can kind of have fun with other people while I'm doing it.
I mean, there were
Uh
some of them that were taking some of these announcements as though they were a certainty. Like it was like almost like before each thing, they were like, okay, they're going to say it now. I wonder if they're going to announce it now. I wonder if they're going to announce it now. And I'm like, do you even know for a fact it's coming? Like, how do you know? You know?
Right. Sometimes I think and maybe it's with smaller games that they will know it's coming out because they're in contact with those companies like prior to it releasing, or they have more of an idea than us about what is going on in the industry. And yeah, like I mean, that's just natural. That is just I think journalism just like in a nutshell. Like I
Yeah.
think like I heard like
Let us
Stephen A.
in the
Smith
tent, boys.
like Stephen A. Smith saying that, like if you knew how much journalists don't say or like the percentage that journalists actually write and keep to themselves, it's like beyond what people would actually believe. So yeah, I think so. I mean,
I get it. You're
I
talking
want
about
to
aliens. I get it.
I want to listen to people who know more than me, which is why
Well, that's a good point.
which is why I don't listen to this podcast.
That's bad advice. Bad
no, no,
advice.
no, because I'm listening to it right now. I'm joking. Anyways, listeners, we're going to hold off for a moment. There was a limited run event just about 4 hours ago from us recording this. So I sent Kevin the link, and I wanted to talk about just a couple of games. For example, Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster is getting a physical release. I think that's going to be sold out.
Oh,
I
for
know
sure.
that you and Sean were excited about that one.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get around to getting it, but it's one of those games I know I'm going to get eventually. You know what I mean? It's on that tier. It's on like, okay, when I finally exhausted the ones I'm focused on right now, I'll be getting that one.
Right. And then there is some older, like some very like older Switch releases that are getting physical ones, like Wolfenstein 2. I can't remember like when that came out. Hitman Blood Money, like Valis. Like there's some older ones that are getting releases.
Hmm.
And we have some brand new games. Is there anything on this list that sticks out to you? The only one that is really interesting to me is the Rugrats Adventures in Gameland game coming out.
Why is
How about
that?
you?
Oh,
It's gonna be a remake of the original NES game. I guess we'll say remake. And the graphics look, if you watch a trailer, it looks pretty much identical to the actual cartoon. So it really looks like you're just playing inside the cartoon. So I think that's pretty cool. And I found out this is going to be the 29th Rugrats game in the franchise. And I'm like, what? Like 29? I only know of like one or
the
like
Jay and Silent Bob game is funny to me because it was kickstarted back in 2016, as it says in the article here, which is a while ago. And it's just funny to me that that still has an audience. That so yeah, it was that one stood out as like this thing still exists. I vaguely remember hearing about this forever ago.
so that's Chronic Blunt Punch. Is this a beat 'em up?
Yeah,
What? Why does everyone do beat 'em ups? Like why
I
can't
think
Jay
they're
and Silent
easy.
Bob?
I don't know. I don't know anything about game development, but I feel like it's an easy. It's like one. It's probably on the same level as making like a side-scrolling platformer. You know what I mean?
Because if you told me we're getting like a Jay and Silent Bob RPG, I'm like, or like Life Sim, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
but those you have to make dialogue for. You have to do all kinds of things. A beat 'em up, you pretty much just have to program the levels and the moves and the enemies, and you're all set to go.
you need to start a Kickstarter 8 years ago and then stop it and start it again.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the ticket right there. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
Well, good for those
Um,
people who donated to that Kickstarter who probably gave up on this by now. Good for
yes,
them that it's coming back.
yes, especially if you listen right now. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking about everyone else, not you.
But yeah, that was the only other thing that stood out. So
Yeah.
that was that there.
So, so yeah, let's move on to big events. Um, Kevin, take it away. I don't even know where to start with this.
I'd like to start by tooting our own horn and talking about the predictions we got right since you made this list here. I think that's a pretty cool addition to this segment.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, if you want to read through some of these, I can take over at a point, but we got a lot of things right that we're going to be in this direct.
Okay, sure. I'll say the big picture, and then you take it away. Big picture is that I think you mostly predicted that this is going to be, heavily Switch focused, no Switch 2 news, although obviously we did see some things that are going to be on the Switch successor as well, or multi-platform. So I think big picture, we got things, we got what the direct is going to be about. So what else? Like, what did we get correct that stood out to you, or we have on this list?
Well, we talked about a new Mario Luigi game, being that Nintendo has been very focused on the main Mario RPGs lately. Um, so we had talked about that. We talked about a remaster or possibly a new game. we talked about online leaderboards being used on NSO, and we saw that in the direct with the Nintendo World Championships game that's coming out. I don't think we did any predictions specifically on farming sims that you wrote here, but I mean, that's money in the bank as far as predictions go. Yeah. The Among Us update was featured in the middle of the direct, and it seems like they leaked the direct date period. We talked about that last week. They kind of uploaded on their website that this would go out on the date of the direct, and everyone started speculating that. Donkey Kong Country Returns. Sean was big on having some Donkey Kong remasters. He's always focused on Donkey Kong, and even though he's not here today, I was texting him, and it seems to me that was the only thing in the entire direct he was really looking forward to, which is crazy. But I don't know. I had a conversation with him this week where he talked about how he's very content with what he has for video games right now, but he's a Donkey Kong fan, so he's definitely going to check that out. And I was just like, that was the best direct we've had in years, man. You're not excited for more than that? But anyway, yeah. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. We talked about that. That was pretty much all but like officially announced, but we didn't talk about the 1 and 2. Which I have more to say on that later. Luigi's Mansion 2. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just very surprised about that announcement. That they announced 1 and 2 in this direct. Keep going.
We knew there was going to be a Luigi's Mansion 2 trailer. We knew Nintendo 64 was going to be. We talked a lot about NSO in general. I predicted Metroid Zero Mission going on there because I think I did that last minute, because it occurred to me that I was like, oh my God, how is this not on here yet? When it leaked a long time ago that was going to be on NSO, and it seemed due. So that was an easier prediction. But you said Perfect Dark, and that ended up on there. I'm surprised about Turok because they have a remake of Turok available on the eShop. So it's interesting that they're willing to put it up on NSO when the remake it's not even, it's like, if I remember correctly, it's like a $10 game sometimes. Like I think it goes on sale a lot, but I don't know. That's neither here nor there. New Mario Party we talked about. New Zelda game featuring playable Zelda is a rumor we've talked about for a while, and I'll get more into that when we're talking about that game, but we've talked about that a few times on here. New Switch Lite variant, which we talked about. They're probably going to put out some new Switch variants in order to try to beat the PlayStation 2 sales record. So that was a good prediction there. Stray coming to Switch. I don't know. That must have been you predicting that. I don't remember predicting that, but that's on the list here. And Metroid Prime 4 was my most accurate prediction, because when we did the episode where we talked about our direct predictions, I said I think it's going to end with a trailer. That I specifically said with just like a quick trailer and then just a release date, which almost exactly what we got. We got a year instead of a release date, but that was pretty much what I was expecting when I said that.
Well, I'll kind of work backwards then, because we got more than I thought we would. Like we got some, like we kind of got gameplay a little bit, and we saw a little bit of like the overworld. It was more like I thought it was going to be like title 2025, 2026 or whatever.
Now that you say that, I think that's actually what I said. I think it was just going to be, I think I said it was just going to be the logo and then a release date. But we did get more. You're right.
The feeling of it, like, because you kind of knew, or at least I think we kind of knew when it started, that this was not like Metroid Prime 2 and 3 or something like that. Like we knew this is a new Metroid Prime 4. But when the title flashed on the screen, it's always that feeling of like, I can't believe we made it. Like I just can't believe it's here. I'm not like
I
a
think the
big Metroid
4
fan.
is too subtle in that logo because I didn't notice it the first time, and I was like, "Oh, did they rename Metroid Prime 4?" I didn't notice the 4 was even in there.
Right. And I shared with you already that I think the most important thing I heard all evening or all direct was that they said it's planned for 2025,
Mhm.
which to me means this is going to be on the new hardware and it's not going to be a launch title.
Well, yeah,
So I don't
let's
know if
let's
it's
talk let's talk about that because that's a subject that's very big on the socials right now. Is I've seen a lot of people who seem to know what they're talking about. I'm not smart enough to notice these things, but say that it does look like it was running on Switch hardware. Apparently, they can tell they're very defensive about people who are like saying that it looked like it was on running on Switch 2 hardware. They're like, no, the Switch is perfectly capable of this. So while I do believe what we were shown could have been, if these people are correct, shown on Switch hardware, I think it's exactly what you just said. I think it's going to be if it's coming out in 2025. And if they're saying expected 2025, meaning there's a chance it could be delayed, that pretty much indicates to me it's going to be third or fourth quarter, which means the Switch 2 will definitely be out, which means they'd be crazy not to offer a cross-platform, higher res version of this on the Switch 2. So I think it's it's pretty much a given, at least in my opinion, at this point, that this thing will be on the Switch 2, whether we've seen the Switch 2 version running or not.
I just think if they're saying expected 2025, this could easily be a 2026 game. And are we seeing Switch games? Are we just seeing this game on this version of the Switch 2 years from now? I don't know. And I also want to include like anyone that would ever listen to me if and when it gets delayed, I don't want to hear any complaining about it. I don't want to see it. I'll stay off Twitter that day because we've waited long enough and the point of it is just to get this game right. So,
I
we
wouldn't be
know at this
surprised if it was restarted a second time that we didn't even hear about. You know what I mean? Like, it's been so long.
we know at this point it's about getting the game correct. So, we have plenty of games um like it's going to come out eventually. And like Sean's not here today. Like I I can kind of empathize with Sean as well because hey, I could never buy another game again and be fine. But so I kind of get that part of it, and also it is in the end, it is a direct for a system in its seventh year. I I do get that. Um yeah, I'm predicting this is not going to be on the Switch hardware. And I've been thinking lately about I'm kind of concerned about how Nintendo is going to um like support like our current Switch when the new one comes out because like it's so hard to like download games sometimes for me on my current Switch. Like
Mhm.
it concerns me a bit for the future.
I think they're going to support it for a while. I think we're going to have a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 situation on our hands where they might even support it, in my opinion, too long. Because pretty much like everything that came out for the PS5, we've talked about this on here before, also released on the PS4. And I think we're going to see that for a while with the Switch and the Switch 2, multiple versions of these games just to keep that Switch going. Because they're in a hard spot with the fact that the install base on that thing is ridiculously huge. And that's how all these games are selling like 15, 20 million copies, some of them, numbers that some systems don't even see, period. So Yeah, I think they're going to support the Switch for a while. As far as updates and making downloading going smoother, I don't know enough about how that works to say, but like I hope it gets better for you.
Yeah, it just I just can't believe like just how long it takes sometimes. And I know I'm
Yeah.
comparing it, and so I know in my mind I'm comparing it to other hardware. Like I can't compare it to a PC. I get that. Like
Hmm.
I get it. I get it. But it takes hours sometimes. I just don't understand. Um, but anyways, speaking of multi-platform, I would also advise if anyone is interested in playing Stray, if you can play it on something else, or you can hold off and play it on the next Switch, I would do it. I don't think it's going to it might look okay on this hardware, but it's a pretty demanding game graphically, and Stray is an absolute gorgeous game. So I would just say it's worth playing the right way. So perhaps even just hold off like the first day it gets released, see if there's any patches that go through. Because I'm a little bit worried that this is like I mean, it was a game of the year. I think it was game of the year nominee, or it was indie of the year nominee, and it's just an awesome game. So I would hate someone to have a bad experience and think, well, this game's no good. That leads me into like what I was most surprised about. That was one of my biggest surprises. Kevin, what surprised you about this direct?
Um, I don't know if anything I'm trying to think was really like a surprise because so many rumors have been floating around forever. I don't think there was anything in this direct I hadn't seen at least suggested as an idea. You know what I mean? So like I'm one of those people I always talk about on here. I buy into hype and I believe like everything. So I wasn't really caught off guard. I thought the Mario and Luigi game was a very strong opener, so that was when the direct started a surprise that they opened with that because I was like, "Oh, wow, this is like a strong thing to open with." And you're saying like there's going to be other stuff like bigger than this in here? That's crazy. So that gave me hope right off the bat where I was like, "Okay, this is going to be a good direct if we're starting with Mario and Luigi."
Right.
Um and yeah, I mean, the whole direct paid off a lot of rumors that have been floating around lately. That this direct halfway through, you know what? I had this thought where I was like, it all makes sense now. You know what I mean? Like little news stories here and there about like this company is hiring for this or this company is putting out like the Mario and Luigi questionnaire that we talked about on this podcast, or the Mario RPG questionnaire, I should say, where they were asking fans different questions about what they prefer, and we talked about how Mario and Luigi, the series, usually isn't lumped in with those type of surveys. So now that there's a new Mario and Luigi game, it's like, oh, now that survey makes sense. Um,
I'm a bit surprised by the timing of it. Is my only surprise with this game.
that is kind of weird that they're putting it's almost like a swan song at the end of the Switch's life here.
Yeah.
Especially said that Tears of the Kingdom. Well, I don't know if Nintendo specifically ever said this, but that Tears of the Kingdom was going to be their last big release. This is I'm not saying this is going to sell as much as Tears of the Kingdom did. No way it will. But it's still a pretty like major. It's a game with Mario in the title. That's a big one.
What do you think?
So
$50 game, $40 game? What do you think?
I think 50 wouldn't even surprise me if they charge 60. Nintendo's going to Nintendo. I
Right.
would say a fair price is 50, but I'll probably buy it if they, they do 60. I'm a definite go for this one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
I'm just surprised because I know another big picture is that it's like we get Mario RPG, Thousand Year Door, and we get this game within 14 months, which is just pretty crazy. So does this
oh
mean
yeah.
that we're getting right?
Yeah, yeah,
September last year.
they really are focused on Mario's RPG side at this point. So that shows that hopefully more new stuff is coming. Maybe
Yeah,
another Paper Mario on the Switch too. Who knows?
yeah.
Uh,
But
I'm
I could
definitely
see.
a pre-order on this one though.
Yeah, but I could see that though. Like I could see like next year is Super Paper Mario, and then we get Inside Story, and then we get a new Mario Luigi game, and I could just see like every 12 months them coming out with a some kind of smaller Mario RPG title, and then perhaps it is a smaller title that is $10 cheaper, or perhaps it goes on sale. Um, but if the install base is big enough and the games are not as demanding, um, I think we could be seeing games like this every year. So yeah,
Well, here's hoping. But more back to me talking about how like this direct a lot of things were like, oh, it all makes sense now. So we had the Mario and Luigi questionnaire, or the Mario RPG questionnaire. You remember there was also that leak about how there was a Zelda game in development that had a similar code name to the Link's Awakening code name. uh,
right.
as soon as the Zelda trailer came on, I was like, oh, now that rumor makes sense. They're using the same art style, so that's why it had a similar code name. Okay. Everyone thought it was going to be an Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons remake. Um, and then there were new Mario Party game rumors. Like all of these things kind of like paid off in this direct. Uh, Rumors about a Zelda game where you play as Zelda. But I don't know. I'm all over the place. I want to go back to Mario and Luigi for a second here. Did you happen to notice that the game seems to be themed around like different like outlets and plugs and things like that? Like there was an aux cable enemy. Um, there's like plug outlets at the bottom of the UI when you're in battle. Um, it's really weird. It's got like a for a game that's supposed to be about like islands. It's got like this weird plug outlet theme.
I just think it's gonna be a weird game. I didn't watch any breakdowns. I don't
Did
know
you
if it
see
was
that
in
the
reference.
brothership is an actual boat-shaped island?
Right. Right. Well, that's how I'm going to remember it, because I'm going to be calling it Brotherhood. I just
I
know
did
it.
it first too, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be calling it Brotherhood, but Brothership, because there's the ship. Okay, got it. Ship. Okay, just remember that one.
Oh,
Uh,
and going to
Um,
some Switch 2 predictions, the button prompts are color-coded again, just like they were for Paper Mario. So, possible color scheme for the Switch 2 controller. I'm going to keep
that's
floating
in,
that rumor.
that's interesting, because this is a new game.
Yeah.
This is a brand new game, so why would they do that? Because
Well, that was the
uh,
thing with the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door thing. Even though that was a remake, the way they color coded the buttons wasn't the same as the GameCube controller, so it was suspicious. They remade it to something that didn't match the Switch. Like it's like you chose this color scheme, you know. But it could be nothing, and probably is.
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely it's definitely fun. Um,
So, and then I'd like to also just dump all my thoughts on the Zelda game here, while I have everyone's attention. Um, so first off, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I saw some people complaining about not getting the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess remakes. Like we got a new game, people. We got a the new game trumps remake every time. I would rather have that announcement every time over a remake. And by the way, I was talking to Sean about this as well. I think I know why we haven't gotten those yet. So Nintendo doesn't like to repeat itself. And a lot of times when they do a remake or a remaster, they put a little something extra in. Like you see with the Donkey Kong Returns announcement we got there, they said they're including the levels from the 3DS game. Or like when we got 3D World, we got Bowser's Fury. And they like to do this type of stuff. I think they feel like with Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, they're like, well, we already released that game and we don't have really anything we would add to it. So just go play it on the Wii U. I think Nintendo totally has that attitude sometimes. And that doesn't mean they won't make a remake of that game somewhere down the line. But I think that's why they're not as eager to do it, is they don't like to repeat themselves, like I just did a bunch of times.
I to me it was more that we're going to release this game in 3 months, which most likely, which
Well, yeah,
well,
but I just mean in the years that we've had the Switch, it hasn't come out. I'm not even talking about this direct specifically. I just mean like I think this is why in total we've never gotten these remakes, is that they're just not ready to put them out yet. They're like, that's looking at the past. We got the future still going.
I don't know. Like I think you should talk about this because um this Zelda game comes out in 3 months, and you predict that it was most likely supposed to be shown to us before, and
Yeah,
perhaps
I saw a rumor that
yeah.
the February direct had I should have gotten the notes on that for this podcast. There was someone talking about how the February direct most likely had a lot of stuff shuffled forward because of the Switch 2 being delayed. And even though these aren't Switch 2 games, they were kind of just rearranging their hype cycle, so to speak. And it before this direct came out, I said, I don't remember if I said it on this podcast or not, but there was a rumor that stuff from the February direct had gotten pushed to this. So we might see a lot of stuff get announced that's coming out like really soon. And this is a really soon thing. Like this got announced and it's coming out in 3 months. So I could have totally seen this being like something we were supposed to get in the February direct and it got moved. I also think, like, you remember back before Breath of the Wild, there were, I mean, not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. There were lots of rumors about Zelda being a playable character in Tears of the Kingdom. I think those rumors might have stemmed from the fact that these two games were definitely in development at the same time. And somebody got some wrong information in an email or like had a conversation with somebody where they're like, oh, yeah, and the Zelda's going to be a playable character soon. And they assumed that meant in Tears of the Kingdom, but actually it was this game that was in development. I think the fact that these two games are only a year apart, like to me, I'm going to take that as something that definitely happened until proven otherwise. Like it was just it was good information relayed in a bad way. Like Zelda being a playable character was going to happen. It just wasn't for Tears of the Kingdom. Because like,
I,
I don't know. I feel like that wasn't something I heard a lot of people talking about until very recently, whereas was wanting a Zelda game where you play as Zelda.
I just can't believe it. I really can't.
We
Just
better get a Zelda amiibo.
oh, I I think we're getting like maybe like a deco tree or deco whatever sapling amiibo.
Yeah.
What is it
A
called?
table.
Deco seed,
Can we get a table amiibo? There's been so
right?
many memes about that.
But I just like Breath of the Wild was technically multi-platform, and now we get two. I'm assuming like this is going to be a mainline game, two mainline Zelda games in 2 years, and I'm also assuming that they have to have some kind of Zelda game in development already for the next Switch. And in development, I mean it could be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, but they're working on it. I know they are. So I just like you talk about how things make sense. I just I I also feel at the same time that like I'm always being surprised by like the amount that's going on that we don't know about until they tell us. Because this game makes sense in so many ways. I never thought that we would be getting a Zelda game in 2024 in September. And man, There's so many reasons why I'm excited for this game. Um,
Yeah. I am
like just
kind of a little bummed that it doesn't seem like it's got that much of a Zelda flair to it, though. It seems like they just took like a normal Zelda game and swapped Link for Zelda. And obviously, I haven't played it yet, so hopefully I'm wrong about this. But I think it should have been more like, you remember when we were talking about what we would do if we did a Zelda game, and I said the perfect thing would be like a game where Zelda, can turn into Sheik, and we get like the Ocarina of Time story. This Zelda doesn't seem like she's secretly a ninja. So it doesn't seem, I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit more toward like from Zelda's point of view rather than just seeming like a character swap that Link could have easily filled the shoes of this protagonist.
I think there are so many references. Like watching it the first time, there were so many things that I caught on to just watching it the first time, but then going back and then looking at breakdowns of it, there are so many things they are referencing in this new game. I'm assuming, which I think when we get to play a Zelda and she gets to go around and meet like the Zora, go to Kakariko Village, I think it's going to be really interesting seeing the discovery from that point of view, which I then hope is going to add some of that more feeling that you're playing as Zelda, I guess. Um, but there's so
I
much
hope
like
so.
so this is made on the same engine as Link's Awakening. The
Which
the
I love.
UI,
I think I've said on the
yeah,
show here before where I'm like, please, please reuse this engine. It's gorgeous, and I could take 10 more Zelda games in this art style as long as you're, I mean, everybody has said this, but like go back to what you used to do, Nintendo, where you have like the main 3D Breath of the Wild Zelda, but you also release these smaller Zeldas in between. Sprinkle them in. You used to have them all the time when you had a handheld and a home console as separate things.
right. The UI looks similar with like the with how it's set up in Link's Awakening, but we also saw that I think you can hit the D-pad and you can cycle through your echoes or your
Uh-huh.
items,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it looks very similar to what you do in Tears of the Kingdom.
Mhm.
So I think that's interesting.
Well, it's interesting
We
that they seem to be. This is another knock against it. And again, I am excited for this game, but it seems like they're very focused on making Zelda games where you can do anything in any order and being completely non-linear. And this seems like another game that's going to be in that style. Like they were very focused on saying like you can solve puzzles in a million different ways, and I'm just like, oh, I just wish I would still like a Zelda game that's more linear and more like they used to be, where there's one specific solution to the puzzles. But
but
I just had to
but
get that out of my system as a Nintendo therapy moment.
yeah, but won't there be won't there be like always like a quote unquote right way to beat a game like this? I mean, I'm assuming because what
I
I'm
have more
excited
thoughts on
about.
this. I have more thoughts on this in the bonus episode I just recorded that'll be out soon. Where I talked a lot about how open world is not always better, and linear. I don't know. I think there's a place for both, and I just hope the original way doesn't get completely replaced by them wanting there always to be multiple solutions to everything, because there's something very satisfying about when a puzzle has only one solution and you solve it. So I don't know. There's something satisfying about both ways. This is probably not the time to talk about this.
Well,
this is
well,
this is direct
we'll
time.
have, yeah, we'll have to talk more about it later when we get to play the game because
Exactly. Exactly.
because because
I'll
the
probably do a
first thing
bonus episode about that too.
because the first thing I thought about was like I think I think this is going to be just an absurd speed run game. Like, I think people are going to be experimenting with all different ways to manipulate and try to beat this game. And
Hmm.
just the concept of like the echoes, the fact that we can like now summon enemies to fight for us or to like use their mechanics to solve puzzles. I mean, the echoes referencing the Triforce, and I just think it's just a really, I think it's a really cool idea. And I think his name is Try. You see, there's a little
Yeah.
character
Yeah,
that
it's Try.
follows like. So, what game does that remind you of? Is that more like, I don't know, like,
Well, it's a lot of the Zelda games have had a helper. Breath of the Wild and
yeah,
And Tears of the Kingdom were like the first time in a while where the helper character has been abandoned. But everything before
right,
that, you had Fi, you had Midna, you had the boat in Wind Waker kind of counts, even though it doesn't go everywhere with you, it speaks telepathically. You've got I mean, you got everyone. Why am I
right.
blanking on the fairy's name from Ocarina of Time? Not Tattle. That's the one from Majora's Mask. Ugh, I can't think of
There's
it.
so many.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hello.
th- yeah. There's so many. I mean, we see Zelda we see Zelda in jail, like kind of like almost like a link to the past, like kind of
Yeah, that's definitely
reference.
the opening. Navi. That
Um.
was it.
Oh yeah. I think there's a scene where the Zora are fighting against each other, which apparently is like Oracle of Seasons. So there's references. Oh, and they use the Zonai
Well,
also. So
as far as
there's
references go, did you see somebody has figured out that it looks like the overworld is like the same overworld map as A Link to the Past. So they're going back to
right,
that again, like they did for A Link Between Worlds.
right. Well, I love like and it almost feels like a meme at this point. Like I love the opening Breath of the Wild shot where you see the overworld and you can see the windmill from Kakariko Village like over on the left. So yeah, I think they're right. And I think the perspective of like it's going to be like almost like an open world, but parts of it are going to be like kind of like top down as well. Um, think it's going to be. I just think it's going to be really cool. I think I've said what I need to say on it. It's going to mess up my gaming schedule. I'm playing this game day one. This is going to be the one game I buy this year day one.
I think I'm definitely day one on this for sure, and I think I'm also day one on Mario and Luigi. Um, Probably day one on Metroid Prime 4, but that's too far away to say. And yeah, a lot of other stuff I'm also interested in. Like we haven't even talked about Dragon Quest. That's one thing I wanted to get into is
Right.
Dragon Quest 3 remake is crazy timing because I'm just now playing Dragon Quest 3 for the first time, and it's that like pixel remaster they did. And I've done 1 and 2. I'm playing the series in order, basically. And I'm like, oh man, I got to the third one, and now I'm probably just gonna start back again and play these when they come out. And when will I get to 4? But what I wanted to say is, did they show, was 1 and 2 a bundle, or are those being sold separately? Because the first Dragon Quest is a super short game, and I don't know if they could justify, no matter how much remaking they did, selling that alone.
That they did not say. They did not give us much of anything. I think they said 2025, and that was
I'm
pretty
gonna do
much
a quick
it.
Google right now.
Um,
Um,
because
Because yeah, I
because
really think 1 and 2 have to be bundled together. People who have played the series know what I'm talking about. But 1, it's super. I mean, it's one of the first traditional JRPGs, so they didn't exactly know what they were doing yet. And it's a really short game. I feel like it's a game you can beat in like under like under 10 hours for sure.
I'm hoping and I'm assuming that they're going to have some kind of bundle of 1, 2, and 3, because for someone like me, I'll just wait until all 3 come out and just play them all in order, because I need a good excuse to get into Dragon Quest more, and this would be perfect. Like,
I like the
um,
first two. That's why I'm still going strong with the series and playing the third one. So, yeah, I hear in the middle it gets kind of weird, but I don't know where that is because I've heard great things about 7 and I don't know. Maybe it's like 5 and 6. I really don't know. I'm not that big on the series, but I've been playing through because basically what happened was um my Final Fantasy doesn't feel like Final Fantasy anymore. Started playing this series, and it feels like what I liked about Final Fantasy back in the day. So it's new games, very similar style. I'm all for it.
I'm really excited about it. Like 2025, this might mean that this is a series that I eventually pick up on like new hardware, perhaps. Like this might be like I'm looking ahead, thinking like some of these games might be games I don't get to until the next system comes out, depending on when that is. Um, so I think there's
Yeah,
going to be
I think that Mario Party game I'm going to probably buy like 3 years from now, unless they put out another Mario Party game. But like well, maybe not three, but like 2 years from now, I feel like in 2025 or 26, I'll get to that Mario Party game.
Mario Party Jamboree looks awesome, and it's I know it's a dumb name. I think it's awesome. I like this. I think it should be like a silly dumb name. Um, I I, I probably won't get it because I'm not much of a social gamer anymore, but it looks awesome. Which I was very surprised about that, and I think a lot of people feel like Mario Party, among other IPs, need a rejuvenation, and I'm surprised that it's coming right now.
Well, I would say it's the Nintendo series that is making the weirdest choices. You know what I mean? Like, why do they keep having only 4 maps? Which this one, it seems like it's going to have more. So that's a great. It's great that they're finally realizing that, but they're also at the same time, it's like you could have added some maps to Superstars, guys. Like these two, putting 2 classic maps in this game is exactly why we bought Superstars, is it was supposed to be a throwback game that referenced all these classic maps. So those 2 should have been DLC in that game. Um, they've also, like, this game has like a ton of different characters you can play as, which is another thing the series has been criticized for lately, is why do we only have like 4 to 6 characters we can play as? Um, so yeah, it's lots of they're not updating the Mario Party games much, and they should be. So hopefully this one is just like out of the box, everything we were asking for. Lots of boards, lots of characters, lots of mini games. They said it's the most mini games ever. So yeah, they're saying the right things, but it's weird because like it's almost like they've broken my trust at this point with the 2 that
Oh
I
sure,
bought.
oh sure,
And-
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'd put
all
Mario
right, I think.
Party um
Hmm?
with weird choices. I'd put them right there with just like any Nintendo sports game at this point. Like
Yeah,
the amount of content is horrible, and it's just like it's like they don't even care at this point. Although they gave us a Nintendo Sports update, which I'm like, why even bother at this point? Like giving us basketball. I don't know who's playing this game still.
yeah. It's just a really interesting way to allocate resources. You know what I mean? Like they put developers on that to make sure it was ready to go up for something nobody was expecting or thinking about. That
Yeah,
is probably ultimately going to be forgotten. That was probably the most underwhelming announcement in the entire direct.
things were moving so quickly, and of course I was like on my phone, being dumb, but like things were moving so fast that I was almost like wait, like was that Tamagotchi life? No, that's Denpamin. And then I had to be like, what's Denpamin? You know, like there were what did we write down? There were 33 titles announced in a direct that was a little over 40 minutes. And yeah, there were some confusing ones. Like they did a trailer for Lego Horizon Adventures, which I was like, Sony? Sony, are you there? like like why are we getting like why are we getting announcements of that, you know? Um
Because
it was
Nintendo's
just
in
loaded.
charge now.
Yeah, it was just loaded. Were there any other like smaller games or anything new that caught your eye in
I
this
love that
direct?
Hello Kitty Island Adventure's a real thing now, so that South Park joke goes even harder.
Oh my god.
Because they claim that it's a coincidence and that it wasn't like they had nothing to do with the South Park joke, but it's just so funny that that's a real game now.
I think it's even better that it looks good.
Yeah,
Like
it
like
looks
like
like
I was
something you could spend your time playing.
like I was watching it like I've never had anything Hello Kitty, but this is Animal Crossing. Like so I kind of want to play it like whenever, but it comes out like next year, so I most likely will not. Um,
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty full calendar for a while.
y- yeah, yeah. I mean, we're getting more Ace Attorney games. I mean, I'll always pick up those like games like that because that's always like a nice like evening of gaming. Um, yeah, there was tons of JRPGs I didn't know about. There was like silly games like Funko Fusion and like Dimpamin that I'm like kind of eyeballing. And yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD comes out January 16th next year. Um,
It's
we
just so like when you keep saying release dates, it's so crazy how soon that Zelda game comes out. To put it into context, like it's crazy that the Mario and Luigi game is further away than a new Zelda game we just found out about. You know what I mean? Like that seems
I'm sure,
wrong. It seems like those were announced in the wrong order.
I'm
Um,
sure.
but you know what?
Well,
I'm glad because that means I have until September to finish Thousand Year Door and some other games that I have in my backlog, so I can keep working at that. I'm enjoying Thousand Year Door. It's really good.
yeah. Well, like, do you ever do this? Do you ever like see a game on Switch and then like you look it up online and it's from like 6 years ago, and you're like, oh man, like this game is
Yeah.
like really old,
Yeah,
but
and you're like, "How did I never hear about this?"
it right, and like, should I pick it up even though it's like even though it's on sale and it's 6 years old? Uh, it just I feel like all the time now I'm getting reminded of like how old, not dated necessarily, just how long this system has been around.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like is gonna happen to that Dark Forces remake for me, is I feel like that's something where eventually I'm gonna have finished the games I have, I'm gonna be looking for something new, and every now and then you get in one of those moods where you just randomly find stuff and you're like, "Oh yeah, I said I was gonna play this 4 years ago. Let me throw that on."
Yeah. So I think I mean I feel like we have a good idea of what this year looks like, and as far as when the next Switch comes out, I feel like we know less. Like
Yeah.
there was really no signs pointing towards when this game could come out. Just a few games that we'll most likely see on the next system. I that
Yeah.
that
What a
is
send off. You know what I mean? What we're assuming is the final Switch focused direct before I think it's pretty much all but confirmed that the next direct will have a lot of Switch 2 information. So goodbye, Switch. We'll have to do an episode on like our favorite Switch games or top 10 Switch games or something like that when the Switch 2 gets announced. Just do like a whole retrospective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll wear a bow tie. You won't be able to see me, but yeah. I think I went back. I went through like the June directs, and I think this is our best one. I think this is the best one in like the Switch life cycle, which is just saying a lot because it's like we started we basically started with a game that was bigger. Like I don't know if it's bigger, but like when we started with Mario Luigi, I'm like, we're starting with this, and then Zelda came like 25, 30 minutes into the direct, and then I'm realizing like this is not the last announcement because
Yep.
is if a new Zelda game isn't the last one.
Yeah, the new Zelda was like
So
in the middle. That was when I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what are they closing with? If there's a new Zelda game in the middle here.
well, did you for just a moment think Link Between Worlds?
Yeah, there were a few fake outs actually. Let me talk about that before we run out of time here. Yeah, there were a few fake outs where there was at one point, and I think they did this on purpose, where when they were announcing the next category and they were like, set sail for island hopping adventure. And people thought that was going to be Wind Waker. You know it. They did that
Right.
on purpose. And what else was there that was like a fake out? The mature channel. Everyone thought Conquer Bad Fur Day was coming
Right.
to the mature channel. But yeah, I don't know if I had a prediction for what would close. Link Between Worlds would have been awesome. I think I was at that point thinking they were going to close with the Wind Waker Twilight Princess like bundle or something, which I still don't think they're going to do, but I was in that mindset at the time. I don't think they're ever going to bundle those games. I think they're going to, when they do eventually release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, they'll be separate, but I don't know. I thought at that point I thought that's what they were closing with because we already had they like to pair things together. Like for example, when we saw the Metroid Zero mission, I knew we were going to get another Metroid announcement. And I thought it was going to be Metroid Prime 2 remastered.
Mhm.
But when I saw Zero mission, I was like, "Oh, we're going to get another Metroid announcement," which we did. And then when we got the Four Swords, and then we got Echoes, the new Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom, I was like, oh, and now they're going to close it on the remasters for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but they did not. So you never know.
Yeah, I'll go back to my idea of putting Wind Waker Twilight Princess on Switch Online, making it an incentive to get that service. Putting some newer or bigger games on there and saying, "Hey, you can play this GameCube game or this Wii game, or you can play Mario Kart 8 for a week or something like that." Just throwing around ideas. I hope anyone listening. I hope this was enjoyable. I feel because I feel like we jumped around a little bit. There was a lot to talk about, and um, we attempted to organize it, and I think it was organized, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, no, I think people are going to like it. It's just a bunch of rambling analysis of the direct, which is what I like to do every time they have one. If you have any thoughts on the direct, let us know. Comment on Spotify. What was your favorite game announced in the direct? Comment on YouTube. Let us know what you thought of this Nintendo Direct. And just keep in mind, we're Nintendo fans, not Nintendo experts. So we probably got a lot of stuff wrong that we talked about, and we're sorry for that. But you know what? It's been 72 episodes and nobody's corrected us yet. So leave a correction down below. And we will see you next week where we will finally continue our biggest mistake tournament. We will get around to doing Mega Man, and we'll have more Nintendo news by then. Probably not as much as we had this week, though.